Hey, many people wonder what is a narcissist. Narcissism is a very destructive personality disorder. People who have it have an incredibly strong need for attention and admiration from others. At the same time, they have an incredibly inflated belief in themselves and their importance to the world. They develop tremendous arrogance, and you'll find them incredibly lacking in empathy. Either not empathetic at all, it's my way or the highway. And if you cross a narcissist, you'll know it because they'll smear you. They'll talk trash about you behind your back because you've seen who they really are, and that's why they badmouth you, because you're a threat to them. Thanks for watching. Hey, many wonder what a smear campaign is. A smear campaign is when someone starts spreading lies or half-truths about another person with the intent to damage that person's reputation. Narcissists do this too, and they actually do it because you've seen who they really are, so they'll try to isolate you. That's what it's really all about, and you may have noticed that. Your friends suddenly stop reaching out to you, stop responding, and you have no idea why. This is because someone's probably running a smear campaign against you. You don't need to reach 100 people they've talked to, they only need one, and the best trick against them. Wait, don't chase after them trying to explain it. Wait until people come to you, and then you tell the truth. Good luck, thanks from me. Hey, many wonder what communal narcissism is. Communal narcissism shouldn't be confused with anything municipal. If that were the case, it would be called municipality narcissism in English, but communal narcissism is directly translated from English and really means public narcissism. These are narcissists who've entered the public sector to actually be able to get admiration and be admired by others and be fed that they're skilled, they're fantastic, and all the good stuff that comes with it, and not least control other people. And they can do this not just as police, priests, child welfare workers, etc., but also within the Red Cross and that type of thing. Thanks from me. Hey, have you ever been asked, why didn't you leave him earlier? It's actually a pretty unfair question to ask someone because the real answer is that I was probably trauma bonded. Trauma bonding is very similar to Stockholm Syndrome, but there's one big difference. With Stockholm Syndrome, you stay in a relationship and fall for someone because your life has been threatened, yes. So it's a defense mechanism. Trauma bonding is very similar, except your life isn't being threatened. You've been manipulated, and that can happen in different ways. Maybe they lured you in with something you want most in the whole world. Maybe they attacked your ego, and they may have even threatened that if you leave them, they'll take their own life. This is what narcissists do. Hope you learned something new. Thanks for watching. Those who believe lies about you without reaching out to hear your side have already been looking for a reason to turn against you. You know what to do. I don't need to tell you twice. Hello. Many people wonder how can you detect narcissists as lying. It's actually a little easier than you might think, actually. First of all, someone who is telling the truth doesn't care about being asked a lot of questions, because they're telling the truth. They don't spend energy on it, and aren't you completely convinced? Wait a few days to ask the same question about the same thing again. Because first of all, the one who speaks the truth did not change his story, one like that. On the other hand, it gets very stressed to be asked questions, and they will, if they notice that you have asked the same question several times, then you should try to dodge it, and they should twist it, and what you hear. If you have written down what they actually say, then you hear why change that narrative there with C, change of explanation, is usually then there is a lie in the picture. In addition, you hear that this is not a good idea. It is children's school again. Thank you for me. Hey, many wonder how to spot a narcissist. It's not as easy as it sounds, but there comes a time in your relationship where you have to stop trying to make things right with someone who refuses to admit they've done anything wrong, because that's how it is in all relationships, friends, family, work, etc. Everyone makes mistakes. It could be that a person said something you don't like and you speak up. You have every right to react to it. But you'll notice that some people will try to twist it partially or completely back on you. They won't own the mistake themselves. This is a classic sign you're dealing with a narcissist. Good luck and thanks from me. Why stress over people going a whole day without talking to you? Remember, if they wanted to, they already would have. And if you love them, let them go, because those who don't love anyone will force them to stay under duress like a narcissist. Hey, many people wonder how a smear campaign starts, why it happens, and what you can do to prevent it. In this video, I'll try to explain it in about 3 minutes. First of all, a narcissist will always blame you, and even if they've lied, deceived you, or been mean to you, treated you badly, they will always twist it around to make it your fault. It's your fault no matter what, because you dared to react. You see this when you've read about narcissism, like I have. You see it right away. And then it gets a bit interesting because it usually starts with you, for example, having done something I don't like. I've spoken up. You know what? This is not okay or good. You hurt me when you say that. A narcissist won't say, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean for you to take it that way." They'll say, "Oh, you're so dramatic. It's your fault that that it turns out this way when you choose to be like that," etc. They become, or for example, they make a big deal out of you actually speaking up, and he's from the north, so I can say, "Damn it, that you can be like that." But they'll say, make a big fuss that I actually reacted and got angry. Well, what does that make me then? No, I mean, when people start with that stuff, I cut them out, and then when I cut out the narcissist, I lost the ability to vent my frustration, and so then you lash out at your friends and what they do is they contact your friends and say, "Oh, poor Mia." And here's where it gets interesting. This is a smear campaign. The first thing you can always ask is, why did he get angry? And then you can always ask follow-up questions like, how is the relationship between you and him? Is it bad, HM? Okay, all right, then it's most likely not because you want to warn me that you're actually saying this about him. It's probably because you want revenge on him, you want to isolate him. Okay, when I figured that out, I simply answer, okay, fine. But then you probably don't mind if I contact him and tell him what you've said, and then I'll hear what he has to say about this. They'll panic. Good luck. Hey, many people wonder what hovering is. Hovering is a manipulative technique that narcissists use the moment you've left them. They come back with promises that things will be so much better, etc., etc., etc. All these good words and promises are just lies because what's really happening is they've lost control and they want it back. And there are two reasons for this. Either they want control back so they can have someone to feed off all the positive things you gave them, and in 2 weeks it'll be exactly the same situation all over again. Or the other reason is that you took control and ended things. So they want it back just to break up with you 3 weeks later. This is hovering, as I call it. Thanks for watching. Hey, did you know that the reason you isolate yourself when you're sad, in conflict, or otherwise struggling is because you had to handle your emotions alone when you were a child? Hey, one thing that's weird about society is if you're too busy to talk, why not just say so? If you're not in the mood to talk, why don't you just say it? And if you don't want anything to do with someone, why not tell them? Communication is the key to all the world's problems. Do you realize how many problems could have been avoided if people just communicated? And it's kind of like when you're cutting someone out, like in middle school tactics, where you just cut someone out without any pain involved. I mean, cutting people out happens all over the world all the time. It hurts a bit and then it passes. Communicate. Thanks from me. Hey, have you thought about when you fought with a narcissist and cut them out? They don't like you, so they try to find or they try to get people to not like you either, and then they band together, and before you know it, there's a whole bunch of people who don't like you either. But here's the thing. These people don't like each other either. They're just united because they don't like you. Damn how powerful you really are. Hey, if you want, I can explain why you should cut out a narcissist, because if someone talks shit to you, treats you like shit, talks shit about you, and is basically a piece of shit, well, my mama taught me that you don't play with shit, you flush it down the toilet. And for those of you with dogs, do you bring the dog shit home to bed and cuddle with it? Hey, many wonder what to do or think when their narcissistic ex gets a new partner. The answer is actually much simpler, because you've seen what this person is really like. You've seen what that person is capable of doing, and they will never get better. So history will repeat itself. So the answer is simple. My problem is now your problem, period. If the narcissist drops you for this new partner, you can just say, thank you for the easy way out. Thanks for everything. Good luck. Many wonder why a narcissist would break up with you. Well, you've been amazing. You gave everything you could in that relationship. You gave money. You really stood strong. You've been incredible. The reason they ended it isn't actually because someone was prettier than you, not because someone was richer than you, not because someone could do something you couldn't, but because they were easier to manipulate than you were. They wanted easy, they want someone they can control. You gave them resistance. They don't like that. Narcissists want things easy. That's why they ended it with you. Hope that makes you feel a bit better, and thanks for listening. Hey, a lot of people wonder what gaslighting is. Gaslighting is a manipulative technique that many abusers use, but I think many people in our society use it without fully realizing they're doing it. What it comes down to is making the other person doubt their sense of right and wrong, their perception, and their own senses. The reason for this is because you don't dare to own up to something you yourself have said or done. For example, I say to you, "You said that to me and I don't like it." No, I never said that. Yes, you did say it. No, you're mistaken. This is an evasive maneuver because if they admit it, they're caught and they'll have to deal with it. How often will a narcissist admit I did something wrong? Gaslighting is actually physically harmful. Your brain literally starts functioning differently if you're exposed to it over time. It's also classified as psychological abuse. So stop gaslighting, own what you've said or done, and have a great day. Thanks from me. If you stress too much over things that haven't happened yet, you've basically gone through it twice. Hey, many wonder what's the difference between a narcissist and a psychopath. This is a question I get asked a lot, and I usually say that all psychopaths are narcissistic, but not all narcissists are psychopathic. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but let me explain it a bit more. As we know, narcissists are completely dependent on getting feedback from others to feel good. And that the only thing they're afraid of is that the facade and that they're nice and straightforward will crack. And if that's what they're afraid of, then it's something that they're almost certainly also afraid of. It's that they're going to be exposed to it, that people are going to start talking about it. So that's why they have to have control over what you do and what you say to others all the time, because they're terrified that you'll say something about them that is true, so they don't have control over. So let's pretend that you're with a narcissist and the narcissist has been unfaithful. Then the narcissist will be terrified and feel shame and fear, not because this was wrong of me, that I've been unfaithful. No, they'll be afraid that you'll actually find out. So you're going to start talking about the person being unfaithful, and by alibi finding out that the person there wasn't as perfect as the person trying to portray himself as a psychopath. On the other hand, he gives a complete fuck. You see, to explain it even simpler, so a psychopath and narcissist have lived on their own, alone on their own deserted islands. Then the narcissist would have died because they need feedback to feel good and feel okay and to feel that they are worth something and they know here life. A psychopath is the kind of person who would manage just fine on his own. There is a difference in a very linky, very simplistic way. So, hope I have answered the question, and just keep asking questions. It's really fun and very challenging. So, have a nice day ahead. Hey, many people wonder what is a trigger and what is a trigger response. Well, a trigger is when I say or do something that causes you to have immediate anxiety or a panic attack, because what I said or did reminds you of a traumatic experience or something your narcissistic ex said or did, making you feel like I'm actually reminding you of your ex. It can actually be something as simple as me giving you a compliment and you panic, or I reach out my hand to greet you, and that triggers you. How does it feel? Well, I experience it myself. I can't say exactly what triggers me because there are trolls everywhere, but I can describe it like, sitting in a car on the E6, and when you meet a trailer coming straight at you head on, of course, every time you say a word wrong and I say I'm triggered, it feels like that trailer is coming at me again and I'm going to die. That's how it feels. How do I handle it? Well, that's maybe a bit tricky. For me, I choose to use exposure therapy. Every time I experience it, You have to be open and honest about it with new people you meet and become friends with so they know about it. But I've told them not to accommodate it because I'd rather experience it again with people who are nice and kind. I know they're safe. I know they care about me. Something bad, and I think if I'm exposed to it repeatedly, my brain will realize that, this wasn't dangerous at all. I'm not going to die. The train will never hit me. That's how I choose to handle it. Though I would recommend you talk to professionals like psychologists and psychiatrists before you decide how to deal with it. Because I actually think running away from the problem isn't the answer. If I were to stop all my friends from picking up a fork just because it might trigger me, that would get pretty annoying eventually. Now, that's not what triggers me, but it was an example, and I really think you should talk to a professional first and see what works best for you. Good luck. Hey, have you noticed that after a breakup, those who were loyal and cared about their partner, they took time to recover from the breakup, while those who were disloyal and didn't care about their partner are already in a new relationship? You can't give up on people just because the situation isn't ideal. The best relationships have problems too, but they involve two people who care so much about each other that they make it work anyway. Hey, many people wonder what's the worst thing you can do to a narcissist. Well, to put it simply, you have a much easier job ahead of you than the narcissist does. So, number one, the worst thing you can do to a narcissist is reject them. And I see this in many, many cases. And to put it this way, rejecting them drives them absolutely crazy. I'm not kidding, they become completely unhinged. And I see many examples of this when I delete comments from people who don't like that I delete their comments because they're rude or that I block them. Then the narcissist will actually create another fake profile, and then they keep complaining about why I'm blocking them. I have a Facebook group, as I mentioned, and sometimes narcissists manage to get in. It happens from time to time. It's unavoidable because they haven't noticed, and I've had to kick members out because of their behavior and the way they act. And it's like, I don't know, I've seen it where I think, yes, I was right, because the way they react right after being kicked out reveals that I was correct. It was a narcissist after all. You're a bit uncertain at first, but so far I haven't been wrong about it because, and then comes the smear campaign. They'll contact members in the group and tell them what an idiot I am and the whole package. But the worst part is you get sent these messages by the members themselves. There's a person here writing this about you. Yeah, what does she know about it? Should I respond? No, just leave it. Okay. So that's the worst thing you can do, rejecting them. Number two is actually ignoring them when you've got people like this. Forget it. Don't respond to them. Whatever you do, just go buy some chips and soda and sit back and enjoy yourself. At first, they'll start with, oh, I'm so sorry, this is so sad, and all that stuff. But eventually, if you ignore them, the hate comes out. And it can flip. It can turn on a dime in some cases with members who've been kicked out. It goes on for like 1 to 2 days, and then it completely shifts, and then it's pure hatred. Then they'll contact all the members, call you an idiot, and tell their made up version of events. It's just nonsense. So we've covered ignoring and rejection, and then the last one is that they get exposed for what they've done, and you tell your story because that's what they want to avoid. Hope you've learned something. Thanks for watching. See you later. Hey, have you wondered what happens if you make a narcissist angry? I shit you not. This isn't meant to scare you. This is based on facts from people I've been in contact with. And I've seen case documents showing what's actually happened here with evidence and everything. They can start a smear campaign talking shit about you, and you actually lose tons of friends and even family members and parents, yours and your kids, because they talked shit about you. But if you still have contact with some friends, count yourself lucky, because there are also cases where narcissists have gone to child protective services and lied about one parent without any evidence. And it ended with the parent losing their kids because the narcissist is angry and wants revenge. Did you know that? I know that. Hey, many wonder how to leave a narcissistic relationship when you have kids with them. Buckle up, it's going to be a bumpy ride, because here's the thing: if it was just you versus them, you could literally just take what's yours and walk away, and the problem would basically be solved. You'll probably face some smear campaigns, some hate, and some calls, tons of messages and texts, but that's it. When you have kids with them, you're basically stuck for the next 18 years, and that's when it gets really tough. So, a main rule that applies to all narcissistic breakups: the no response rule, meaning don't respond at all. That's the most common rule. The problem is when there are kids, you have to communicate with the person you least want to talk to in this entire world. I think most people would rather take a blind date without, honestly, it's tough, but you have to communicate with them. And there's a simple rule: only talk about the kids, ignore the rest. That's just the general rule. But still, it's important that you try to cooperate, even if the narcissist is completely impossible. You have to try to work with them. And here it's actually important that you meet their hostility with kindness and understanding, while at the same time you need to set aside your anger toward them, because you have to cooperate with them. And remember that the kids are watching all of this, and what do you want them to learn? And unfortunately, narcissists will also try to paint you as the bad guy. And this isn't even recognized in the justice system in Norwegian courts right now, but there's actually something called parental alienation, where the narcissist manipulates the kids into telling child services or the school that mom or dad is this or that. And it's not true. It's the narcissist who got them to say it, or else terrible things will happen to them. This happens, believe me. And I've heard it so many times. And it's actually one of the things that really frustrates me about child services, not understanding this. And there are so many stories out there like this. So that's all from me. Hey, many wonder what parental alienation is. Parental alienation is when one parent manipulates the child into believing or saying untrue, negative things about the other parent and gets them to use it against the parent in child welfare cases. It's crucial to point out that experts, professionals, judges, and lawyers don't accept this. They don't recognize this as an established technique that's being used. For them, it doesn't exist. But I can prove this actually happens. People who've been dealing with this for over 20 years can document it happens. So why can't the experts, those who went to school to become professionals, recognize it? Well, because then suddenly they'd lose cases and things that most of us know, Father. Then you'll suddenly be proven right, and then they bring out their weapons. And the reason parental alienation is used is actually, as we know, Narcissists love to manipulate. They do everything they can to defend themselves. They've never done anything wrong. It's the other parent. And they get the kids on board with it. And it's actually incredibly easy to manipulate a child. There are cases where the parents, at least one of them, has manipulated the kids, slipped them $100 bill in their pocket, and then they're happy and then they say it. There are also cases where I've seen where the kids have actually changed their story. That's one thing that has happened, but Child Welfare Services doesn't really care much about this because then suddenly the case would fall apart and then they'd be wrong and then the father, would be right. Furthermore, actually, about parental alienation, it's a manipulation technique so grotesque that it's embarrassing to see it actually works. And we're talking about threats against children here. This is actually what we sometimes mean when we say that narcissists are willing to use their kids as both weapons and shields. And this is clearly a weapon they use. And it's also to hurt the other parent. You left me, I'm going to get revenge. I'm going to make sure your reputation and your entire character gets destroyed. That's actually what narcissists have in the back of their minds. They're going to punish you for leaving them, and they use your kids as weapons against you. This is very important for you to actually learn and know about. Thanks for listening. Hey, many people wonder, is narcissism a diagnosis? Well, this is a question that even the experts completely disagree on, and they've debated this for hours on end. But here in Norway, we've ended up in a bit of a gray area. We say it's a personality disorder, but you can still be diagnosed with it if you're severely affected by it. But how that should happen, well, it would have to be that if you get a court order where you're required to be evaluated, because a narcissist will never go to the doctor on their own. Like, no, I think I have ADHD. Can you get me evaluated for ADHD? A narcissist will never in their life do that. It's always the other person's fault. People don't understand them. They feel misunderstood in the whole package. It's always someone else's fault. They'll never go to a psychologist voluntarily. So that's one argument. Another argument is that that it's a mental illness either, because the narcissist doesn't suffer. It's the victims around them who suffer, and they end up being directly traumatized. Actually, many victims of narcissists take their own lives because of them. And another argument is that there's no cure for it, though that's not really an argument in itself. It's not like, hey, you take a pill and then you learn to behave, because the behavior is quite interesting. It's your personality. And the personality is basically like a spoiled little brat, except there's one shocking thing. It's an adult. And you can imagine yourself if someone came to you and said, hey, you need to completely change your personality. The person you've known for, let's say, 50 years, you have to remove that. And then you replace it with a new one, right? You don't know any money. Do you think that's possible? So there's no cure for being a narcissist. You can go to therapy. I've heard of people who've actually gone to therapy for narcissism and gotten better, but they actually have to go to therapy for the rest of their lives to maintain it. But here, the people I talk to, this is where we've positioned ourselves. Were they really narcissistic to begin with, or what was it really? Because you can be misdiagnosed too, so that's really my answer to that. So I'm saying it's not a diagnosis, but it's a personality disorder. It's a personality you have and have developed where you have no empathy at all, and you're basically a spoiled little brat. So thanks from me. Hope you have a great rest of your day. If someone makes you feel like you're bothering them when you reach out, do yourself a favor and never contact them again. When you truly care about someone, their flaws won't change how you feel about them. Your head might get angry at them, but your heart still loves them, so you keep fighting for them, no matter what. Never ignore those who truly care about you, because one day you'll realize you lost your diamond while you were too busy. Hey, want to hear a story about a real life narcissist? Just to be clear, this is real. These are grown adults, and I've been given permission to share this. When this story begins, the person had left their narcissist and filed a police report against them for, among other things, assault. And when you file a report and the police take it seriously, you get called in for a police interview, and so does the other person. Called in by the police, and then a few days go by, and then the police contact the person again, and what the police say is, yes, we've now had the narcissist in for questioning, but they said more and apparently confessed to more than what you originally reported them for. Oh, really? What did they say? Well, they didn't want to go into specifics, but they were wondering if the person was interested in filing additional charges. Yes, of course, absolutely. It also came out that regarding the assault, the narcissist had tried to defend themselves by saying that no, they were just trying to be nice, which they obviously is pretty stupid. It's like trying to defend yourself from assault by saying, no, I didn't assault her, I just borrowed her body. He could have literally said that. And the reason this person sang like a bird during the interrogation was because they didn't know what the accomplice had said, so they just rambled on and defended themselves without knowing what to defend against. So, with that, I still hope you have a great day. I hope you got a laugh out of this, and there are quite a few sick stories out there. Have a fine day. Thanks from me. Hey, many people wonder what narcissists' needs are, which is a great question. At the same time, it's also a little clue as to why they are the way they are. And to explain that, I need to talk a bit about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you're following along right now, you'll see Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and feel free to pause to study it more closely. And if you look in the middle, there's safety, social needs, and recognition. This is really important for narcissists, much more than you think, and they compete over who gets to be on top, because for them to feel recognized, they need to feel safe and also within the social realm. At the same time, there's a little catch here. All people have this to varying degrees. You can live very well without so many friends around you. People are either extroverted or introverted, and you don't need other people around you to feel like you're worth something. Narcissists need that, and there's another little thing. They have to fulfill a social need, a need for security and recognition. It's something they're not, so they create a facade. They fake being something they're not. And what you see is very similar to elementary school, where they brag like, I can do 50 push-ups. You remember it from elementary school. I learned to count to 12. And the moment you ask, okay, can I see? There's always an excuse. And then they feel insecure and unsafe. And of course, something's wrong, because why don't you believe me? You don't believe me. I just want to see it. If you say that, then you have to show me. And then they start to feel insecure. That's a small example. So they're living a lie, trying to fool others into thinking there's something they're not. That's the facade. And that means the foundation of their pyramid is weak. And the moment now, some of those factors, no, some of those sectors you see in Maslow's hierarchy of needs collapse, then the whole pyramid collapses like a house of cards. So they're very insecure, very weak, and terribly afraid that this will fall apart. And that's what they dream about at night and have nightmares about. Hope this makes sense. Thank you so much for me. Hey, many people wonder, do narcissists have an inferiority complex? Oh, yes, that's actually the basic reason why they are the way they are, because narcissists feel so small inside themselves, they feel like they're worthless. And the classic thing, the first thing you learn about bullying in school is that the bully feels so small inside, that's why he bullied you. To make himself feel better. And that's exactly why you see narcissists tearing others down, because they try to drag each other down to feel better themselves. The problem is it's quite addictive. So you constantly have to put someone down and talk crap about others just to feel how amazing you really are. So you're like a vampire, sucking the energy out of others. Also, that explains why narcissists are so defensive. They overreact the way they do because they feel small, rejected, and all of that. They feel like they'll die if their facade cracks, which makes them feel even worse. So it's completely serious for them. A simple argument can literally mean life and death. They're actually fighting for their lives. That's why they're so aggressive and do what I like to call overkill. They'll shoot you 10 times just to make sure you're dead. That's why they have zero inhibitions about defending themselves. That's also why many narcissists choose jobs in places where others have to look up to them, where they can control people, like child protective services, police, clergy, lawyers, judges, and such public positions, or Red Cross if you're talking about those kinds of hobby places and jobs. The reason is that for them to feel good and not feel as small as they really are, they need places where they can nurse their inferiority complex. And that's why you see them ending up in exactly those kinds of positions, which is municipal narcissism. And that's why they attack you so. Incredibly when you point out their mistakes, because then they feel inferior, they feel less than you. So really you're quite a powerful person, and that's why they attack the strongest parent and side with the weakest, who in some cases is a narcissist and psychopath. Because you're the strongest, you tell them this isn't okay, that's why they don't like you. Thanks from me. Hey, many people wonder, what is a flying monkey? A flying monkey is what I call in Norwegian an errand boy, and they are errand boys for narcissists. Because remember that narcissists, some of them, don't like to get their hands dirty, so they get others to do their bidding. So flying monkeys are those who come to you and try to get information about you, that they can tell the narcissist what you're up to, what you're saying, and all those things. And how does it feel? What's the effect of what the narcissist has done? So the narcissist gets the chance to enjoy their impact, and they can do it in different ways and get someone to sneak in as a flying monkey. And it could be like, I'm so worried, can't you contact him and ask how he's doing? No way. If I suspect someone's a flying monkey, cut them out completely and treat them exactly the same as you treat the narcissist. Thanks for watching. Hey, many people wonder, how do you handle a flying monkey? Actually, pretty simple. First of all, like I said before, ignore them, but should you block them? Well, you can block some if you want, but always leave a few unblocked. The reason is simple. You're doing a reverse divide and conquer, because they'll run back and tell how incredibly well you're doing, how great you look, and now he's got a new girlfriend, and the narcissist who tried to destroy everything will be incredibly annoyed. It's not good news when flying monkeys come back with that, and it will have an effect. So you're doing psychological warfare without doing anything. They'll be watching. They'll make fake profiles to keep tabs. Thanks for watching. Hey, a lot of people wonder how you become a narcissist, and there are probably some out there who secretly dream of being one. Many think it's all the parents' fault, but it's actually not that simple. First of all, it depends on what you're born with. I know someone told me it was a brain injury, and I completely disagreed. It's not that either. You're born with lower empathy and a narrower emotional range. And then it becomes tricky if you're supposed to be a very empathetic person. So it's actually something you can be born as, but then the parents come into the picture, and it also depends on how you're raised. If you're raised with proper boundaries, you know what's right and wrong. But if you're a spoiled little brat, well, you become a spoiled little brat, and then do you think that's it? End of story. No, 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 no. You can also, it depends on the environment too. And you can see this. There are people who've had great upbringing, the world's best education, been excellent students their whole lives, and then suddenly they fall in with the wrong friends or the wrong partner, and everything goes to hell. They end up in a criminal path. So you can actually learn not to care what others think because of the environment you're in. In short, you can be born with it, so you're more easily influenced to become a narcissist. And it depends on how you're raised and it depends on the environment. So keep these factors in mind. But like I said, I think it's more about what you're born as and what you're susceptible to. For example, some people can get addicted to eating chocolate faster than others. That's just how it is. We're all born different. Thanks for me. Hey, want to hear some real life narcissist stories? Just to be clear, this is real. These are grown adults, and I've been given permission to share this. When this story begins, the narcissist who's in a relationship was ordered to attend anger management classes. So the narcissist goes to this course, but gets sent home on the first day with a note that says there was no point in the narcissist being there because they genuinely don't acknowledge or recognize anything at all. And this is pretty typical for them, right? It's never their fault. Never, ever, ever. It's always someone else's fault. And they're the ones being misunderstood. And that's what happened here. And the person who was actually supposed to get help, well, no, there was nothing wrong with them. So there was no point in them being there. Have a nice day. Hope you got what you came for. Bye. Hey, many people wonder what visitation sabotage is. It shouldn't be confused with parental alienation, which I've talked about before. Parental alienation is the actual action you take against your child to make them distance themselves from the other parent. Visitation sabotage is the whole package. It's when you go to Child Protective Services and tell a bunch of lies that aren't true about the other parent. You're basically trying to destroy things for the other parent so you can affect their visitation time with the child. This is actually illegal, but it's also hard to prove. How are you supposed to handle it when Child Protective Services believes all these lies? Because it can be pretty convincing. Thanks for watching. Hey, is narcissism the new buzzword? Sometimes I actually start to wonder it's really a shame because people misuse a word they don't really know much about. It's actually more complicated and advanced than just throwing that word around. And why is that? Well, to put it this way, it wasn't that many years ago you were called racist if you spoke negatively about immigration. Not that many years ago, if you said something negative about Israel, you were called a Nazi, and if you said something negative about someone who comments and doesn't agree, suddenly you get called a narcissist. I personally was called a narcissist once by a guy who claimed he had 25 years of psychology education and knew what he was talking about. Yeah, I said, you can have 25 years of psychology education, but there are many psychologists who don't know what a narcissist really is. And that's actually true. Many psychologists don't know what it really means, honestly, and it's true. And the guy lost it. The reason is he attacked her, and he called me a narcissist. You're a narcissist. And I see this all the time. Accusations of narcissism are very common. And when people come to me accusing their ex of being one, it's not so easy for me to believe them right away. My question is simple. Okay, why is this person a narcissist? And based on what they answer, I quickly figure out if they know what they're talking about. I've been told by people who claim their ex is a narcissist or a relative was a narcissist. And when I talk to them, I hear immediately, I have no idea what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. And one person told me that their ex was a narcissist. And I simply asked them, what's the reason? What is it that makes that person a narcissist? I don't know. They won't go to the movies with me. Yeah, okay. And another thought the person was a narcissist because they didn't want to meet them. A narcissistic victim will usually cut off and run as far away from that person if they were a narcissist that they want nothing to do with that person. So it's quite bold to be a narcissistic victim. Thank you very much from me. Hey, many people wonder what financial abuse is, and it's quite a taboo topic too. And it's actually a control tactic and form of abuse that narcissists use. Financial abuse is when they start controlling your money. Imagine a situation where you have to ask your partner for permission to buy clothes with your own money. On top of that, you can also have situations where they spend all their money on cigarettes, beer, football, etc. These are just examples. And you hear this and think it sounds like men, but women do it too, where they blow their money on nonsense and then you have to sit there and pay the bills. You're pressured to pay the rent or the mortgage. Another variation is that they weaponize child protective services, turn it into a criminal case or a child custody battle, etc. and so on. And you're stuck there having to pay bills to lawyers and case handlers and the whole package, so you basically go bankrupt. There are stories where I know people have to be sued to death because of those committing financial abuse. Something else that also happens is that they push such cases, especially if they know you have an inheritance coming. Another variant is that if they know you're waiting for an inheritance, they can not only try to sue you, try to report you, and then demand compensation because they know you have an inheritance, but they can also be really nasty to you because they know you can't fight back since you're waiting for that inheritance, and then they'll make you lose the inheritance if you try to resist. So they use the inheritance you're expecting as leverage to say and do exactly what they want. Pretty sneaky, right? Now, you can also see this in financial abuse. What happens is they take your money in really underhanded ways and manipulate you into thinking you have to pay for things while they don't pay anything at all. You know what? People don't talk about this much. Many think it's embarrassing to discuss, but that's exactly the problem. If we don't talk about it, how on earth are we going to bring attention to it? These are stories I've heard from my listeners about situations like this happening. It's very common, actually. I've experienced it myself, being manipulated into thinking you have to pay because of false promises and that whole tsunami of lies. So that was some brief information. Thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful day. Hey, if you looked at social media, online news, newspapers, or TV, you might think that only men were psychopaths or narcissists, not women. That's a question I get asked many times. My answer is quite simple. Are there female murderers? This is really just misinformation from social media. And the thing is that women get to speak out more about narcissism than men. When I first started, I actually got a response from a psychologist group, and they thought this was immoral that I talk about it, but it's no more immoral than when the woman speaks out. That's my answer. Hey, many wonder what's the difference between a male and a female narcissist? Yes, there are women who are narcissists, and I personally think it's 50-50, but women are a bit more covert. They're a bit better at not getting exposed as easily. So, what's the difference? There are similarities, but there are also some differences in the dynamics. Go back to school and see how it works. See how kids are handling a conflict. Men are with the direct way they handle it. They plant a palm tree right on the ground and have a great need for marking. They are supposed to be men, ladies, and they are like that. They spread seeds of insecurity. And then, as soon as the victim does something, then it is, that is the confirmation. So, a seed, it now goes much further. Something else, as you see it, is that, and of course, it may be that women can go a little more into the male role and men can go a little more into the female role. Are there examples of both? But both narcissists have a need for marking. I can see it in the comment field. I have 25 years of experience with this. I know what I'm talking about. Yes, for me, the answer is pretty simple. I don't fuck, so I don't care if you can be king of Disneyland if you want to, but for me, you don't do anything on purpose, and then I actually attack their ego. And when you do that, or they see that it doesn't work, what if I position myself as an expert or show all my experience? I just do nothing to them. And then when they argue, they see that they're not right. And then they get angry, and then women usually start with smear campaigns. Men do it too, but women are a bit more sneaky. They go because men actually do it more openly. Women do it more behind your back. So women spread uncertainty and kind of show that they're angry. But the reason they're angry is actually that they didn't get to be right. Their ego is hurt. That's the reason we talk shit about others. So when people come to me and want to talk shit about people I should supposedly stay away from, I always ask, what's the basis? What has this person done to you? And that's how I discovered it, that there's actually something not quite right here, because they get an explanation problem and someone says, oh, that person is a narcissist. And what's the basis for calling them a narcissist? Thank you. Hey, many people might ask, what kind of decent person drags their ex into a lawsuit? just because they don't want to be with them anymore, and uses the kids to attack the situation. And the reason narcissists do this is actually to crush you, to attack what you love most in the whole world. I can say it myself. Narcissists who don't like me talking about this, they comment in the comment section and go and say it. And yes, talk about this so it will affect my view counts. They think my view counts give me joy, so they attack that. It doesn't work on me. Furthermore, it could be that they manipulate child protective services, come with lies. Everything is based on circumstantial evidence. There's no proof of it, and they manage to manipulate child services so they get a lawsuit out of it. What kind of decent person does that? Because let's be honest, if you were a father or a mother and spent so much time on your ex, even though you have a new partner, I don't think you're a good parent because you spend more time on your ex than on your new partner. Time you could have spent on your kid. The other parent can't start a new life because they have to defend themselves because of you, and that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to insert yourself into their life. You won't let go of your ex, and how your new partner even bothers to put up with it is beyond my comprehension, honestly. I would run as fast as I could if you spent so much time on your ex, because it's really your new partner you should spend time on. And the kid hasn't escaped this, so they're going to suffer psychological damage from seeing how their parents behaved. Plus, this costs society enormous amounts of money, and I'm actually not sure I want to pay taxes if my money is going toward this. There are much better things I'd rather my money go to. My point is that parents shouldn't start fighting about this kind of thing, and that's why I think you should let go of that partner of yours and do the best you can for your kids instead. The kids are what's important. They're the ones who'll suffer. And kids don't do well when parents start fighting like this. Plus, it's a really bad example you're setting. So, of course, there are cases where parents are so messed up that it takes a court case to get this sorted out. But then there has to be evidence. You can't just talk nonsense and expect it to work. That's not how the world works normally, but sometimes I'm starting to have my doubts. That's all from me. Hey, did you know it's actually possible to think someone's a narcissist when they're really not? How does that work? Well, if they've experienced something really traumatic early in life or been exposed to a narcissist before, they might have developed a defense mechanism that makes them seem narcissistic, but it's not because they are, it's because they're scared. In that particular situation, this is situational. If you and I were arguing right now, we'd both seem terribly narcissistic, but we're not narcissists because it's situational. Narcissists are like that 24/7. That's the difference. So, if you've been exposed to something truly horrible, which triggers a trauma response, and I start talking about PTSD, then what happens is they're narcissistic because they're scared, which is as simple as me trying to stop you from blinking. You can't, it's just a reflex. So, what happens is they react aggressively, and that's a defense mechanism we all have. I mean, if you corner even the world's sweetest dog and it feels like there's no way out, it'll react aggressively. And we do the same thing. We're animals too, whether you like it or not. We evolved from apes, we have that instinct in us, and it's a really important instinct because that's how it's called fight, flight, freeze mode, and it's a really important trait. Because if we didn't have it, we probably would have been eaten by a lion, and humanity wouldn't be what it is today. So it's an important reaction, but the thing is, there are no lions anymore, and there's no danger, but there's a memory that's been etched into this poor person's brain that makes them react. They sense a danger that no longer exists. I usually put it simply, I have this, but I don't want people to make special accommodations for it. I want to tackle it. I want to try to trick my brain into believing and understanding that this is no longer dangerous, that there's no danger here. And ultimately, I hope that works. So it's about communicating. What just happened? Why did things go wrong just now? And then I hope you figure it out over time. But remember, be open about your vulnerabilities, because that's how you'll become a better couple in the future. Thank you so much from me. Many don't realize that committing character assassination by lying about others is actually not very smart, because it's much simpler for me to commit character assassination on them by proving that I'm actually telling the truth. Hey, many wonder what's the easiest sign of gaslighting. It's quite simple. If you react to abnormal behavior and the person behaving abnormally accuses you of overreacting, then you've been gaslighted. So if you are, thank me. Hey, many people wonder what the conflict dynamic with a narcissist is like. Once you know what to look for, it's pretty simple to spot, and it's actually kind of amusing. First of all, the victim role is essential. They immediately jump into the victim role every time. They have to be the victim. They're the wronged party. Whether you're right or not, they have to be the victim. The problem with playing the victim role is that you have to be a victim. And this is where narcissists fail, because first they take the victim role, and let me tell you, you're failing if you counter-argue, saying you're not victims, that's not how it happened, don't do it. At least that's not what I do. I let them take the victim role because I know something else. Sooner or later, if I counter-argue, they start counter-attacking. Counter-attacks can be them denying that's how it happened. They start talking shit behind your back and twisting the truth and what happened, and I just keep going. Yeah, okay, fine. And then when that doesn't work, they go on the attack, and this becomes really interesting because, okay, if you were a victim, why are you attacking me then? And that's where they fail, because first of all, when people start bad-mouthing you, start asking questions, okay, what? What's really going on here? What did he say? And if they say yes, but she said, but for me, she said, thing doesn't work. Can you prove that's how it happened? Then they often get quiet. And that's when I realize something's off here. And number two, if they go on the counterattack saying he's dangerous, she's dangerous and all that, well, that's a pretty aggressive tactic for someone claiming to be a victim or saying you've been wronged. So that doesn't work. For me, it was jarring right away. And these are actually things I see all the time. I'm not kidding. I see it constantly. Just about a month ago, someone got kicked out of my group. I don't know if I immediately suspected victim playing, but just a few days later, I get a message that this person is indirectly threatening me. And I actually have it on my phone. So when people contact me, they get it sent right away. And it's like, that's pretty aggressive for someone claiming to be a victim and wronged and starting to threaten. That's how you can spot it really easily. And that dynamic is actually quite interesting to watch. They jump straight into the victim role, but they do it too early and they don't maintain the victim role. They become the attacker without you having done a damn thing. Thanks from me. Why do I think you shouldn't play the victim? The answer is simple. If you're a victim, people will see it. When people reach out asking what happened or if I've been wronged, do I actually tell them what happened? I don't care about talking trash about other people. I'm simply telling what happened. That's what I focus on. This happened, I said this, they said that. Then this occurred, and here's the result. The responsibility to interpret this is on the person I'm telling. Look at narcissists. How hard they work to convince you they're the victim, to convince you their version is the right one. If you were truly a victim, people would see it. Relax, and if you're in conflict with someone, let them play the victim. Because if they're lying, it becomes transparent over time since they'll have an explanation problem. They have to lie about a role they don't really deserve. So for me, what do? I just let them keep going. The truth always comes to light, and the moment it does, the whole facade collapses like a house of cards, and that facade is what they're really trying to defend. That's why they play the victim, because they want to keep up appearances. They want to be the innocent one. The problem is they're just not as innocent as they claim to be, and that's why you shouldn't take on the victim role. People can see that you're the victim. Pretty simple. Okay, thanks for me.